Hello everyone, and welcome to my YNR Official 24 channel. Mariah finds herself standing at the edge of a cliff she once swore she'd never approach again. The unthinkable thought worms its way into her mind late at night, whispering louder with every heartbeat. What if the only way to get Tessa back is to make Daniel disappear forever? And worse, what if the only man capable of doing it is the very monster Mariah spent years trying to escape, Ian Ward? This isn't just a tale of jealousy or heartbreak. It's the story of a woman unraveling under the weight of love, abandonment, and old scars that were never fully healed. It's about how grief can masquerade as righteousness, how obsession can dress itself up as destiny, and how one desperate phone call could turn Mariah from survivor into accomplice to murder. It begins quietly, as these stories always do, not with violence but with absence. Tessa Porter is no longer looking at Mariah the way she used to. The laughter that once came easily now feels forced, the intimacy strained, the warmth replaced with polite distance. Mariah tells herself she's imagining it, that relationships go through phases, that she's being paranoid. But paranoia has been Mariah's shadow since childhood, a survival instinct honed by betrayal after betrayal. When Tessa starts spending more time with Daniel Romalotti, working late, sharing music, confiding in him in ways she no longer does with her wife, the knot in Mariah's stomach tightens. She doesn't accuse at first. She watches. She listens. She collects moments the way prosecutors collect evidence. A laugh here. A lingering look there. A text message Tessa quickly hides. Daniel, with his easy charm and wounded artist vulnerability, slides into Tessa's world almost effortlessly, and Mariah feels herself being edged out of her own marriage. Daniel, for his part, insists he's innocent. He's just helping a friend. He's just collaborating creatively. He's just being Daniel. And that's what makes it worse. There's no clear villain, no smoking gun, no moment Mariah can point to and say, "That's when he stole her from me." Instead, there's a slow erosion of trust that eats away at her sanity. Every time Mariah tries to talk to Tessa, the conversation turns defensive. Tessa accuses Mariah of being controlling, of projecting her insecurities, of not trusting her. Those words cut deeper than any outright betrayal ever could, because Mariah has worked her entire adult life not to be the frightened, manipulative girl she once was. Being told she's failing at that she's becoming someone toxic, pushes her closer to the edge. The breaking point comes when Mariah overhears something she was never meant to hear. In the recording studio late one night, she pauses outside the door as Tessa and Daniel talk, unaware she's there. The conversation isn't explicitly romantic, but it's intimate in a way that feels devastating. Daniel talks about starting over, about wanting a life that feels real again. Tessa admits she's confused, that her marriage feels heavy, that she doesn't know who she is anymore. And then Daniel says the words that change everything. "If you ever wanted more, I'd be there." Tessa doesn't shut him down. She doesn't say no. She just goes quiet. For Mariah, that silence screams louder than a confession. That night, something inside her fractures. Not all at once, but enough that the cracks can never be fully hidden again. She spirals into a place she recognizes all too well, a place of abandonment terror, where love feels conditional and loss feels inevitable. Sharon notices first. She sees the sleeplessness, the irritability, the way Mariah's thoughts seem to race faster than she can keep up with them. Sharon urges therapy, patience, communication. But Mariah doesn't want patience. She wants certainty. She wants control. She wants her wife back. And that's when Ian Ward's name surfaces in her mind like a poison bubble rising from deep, murky water. At first, Mariah recoils from the thought. Ian Ward is everything she hates, everything that once destroyed her sense of self. He's manipulation incarnate, a predator who preys on vulnerability and wraps cruelty in the language of faith and destiny. Thinking about him makes her skin crawl. But the mind does strange things under extreme emotional distress. Mariah remembers not just Ian's abuse, but his power. His ability to orchestrate chaos from the shadows. his willingness to do what others won't. And slowly, against her better judgment, a terrifying logic begins to form. Ian owes me, she thinks. And if Daniel were gone, everything would go back to the way it was. The idea horrifies her. It excites her. It won't let her go. Mariah tells herself she's not talking about murder, at least not at first. She imagines a scenario where Daniel is scared away, framed, forced to leave town. But every imagined outcome circles back to the same truth. Daniel is a problem that won't solve itself. And Genoa City has taught everyone one brutal lesson. People who don't disappear voluntarily often disappear permanently. Mariah starts researching Ian in secret, checking prison records, online rumors, whispered updates. When she discovers he's free, operating under the radar, her pulse spikes. Fate, she tells herself. Or maybe temptation. The phone call happens on a night when Mariah feels she has nothing left to lose. She and Tessa have had another fight, this one uglier than the rest. Tessa admits she needs space. She doesn't say she wants a divorce, but she doesn't say she doesn't. That ambiguity is torture. After Tessa leaves the house, Mariah sits alone in the dark, staring at her phone for a long time. She knows the number by heart. She's hated herself for that knowledge for years. Her finger hovers over the screen, shaking, as every warning bell in her mind screams at her to stop. And then she presses call. Ian Ward's voice hasn't changed. It's still smooth, still falsely gentle, still capable of making your blood run cold. He knows it's Mariah before she even says her name. He tells her he's been waiting for her to call, that he always knew she would. That alone almost makes her hang up. But she doesn't. She tells him she needs help. She doesn't say with what, not yet. Ian listens, lets her talk, lets her unravel just enough to reveal the depth of her desperation. He doesn't rush her. Predators never do. When she finally mentions Daniel, mentions that he's threatening her marriage, her happiness, her future, Ian laughs softly. Not mockingly. Comfortingly. He says he understands what it's like to have someone steal what belongs to you. When Mariah finally says the words out loud, I want him gone, the silence on the other end of the line feels endless. Her heart pounds so hard she thinks she might pass out. Ian doesn't immediately agree. Instead, he asks questions. He probes. He reframes. He talks about justice, about sacrifice, about how some people exist only to test our faith. He never says the word kill. He doesn't have to. By the time he tells Mariah he'll handle it, she knows exactly what that means. The aftermath is immediate and brutal. Guilt crashes over her in waves so strong she can barely breathe. She tells herself she didn't explicitly ask for murder. She tells herself she can still stop it. She tells herself it's already too late. Ian, meanwhile, moves with chilling efficiency, gathering information on Daniel's routines, his vulnerabilities, his habits. He relishes the chaos he's about to unleash, not just because it's what he does best, but because it keeps him connected to Mariah in the most twisted way imaginable. As danger closes in on Daniel, the walls begin to close in on Mariah as well. She sees his face on television, laughing with Lucy, talking about new beginnings, completely unaware that his life is hanging by a thread. The reality of what she set in motion finally hits her full force. This isn't a fantasy anymore. This is blood on her hands, blood that hasn't even been spilled yet. She tries to call Ian back, tries to undo what she's done, but he doesn't answer. Or worse, he does, and tells her calmly that there's no turning back now. Meanwhile, Tessa senses something is terribly wrong. She notices Mariah's panic, her sudden mood swings, the way she flinches at every phone notification. When Tessa confronts her, Mariah almost confesses. The truth claws its way up her throat, desperate to escape. But fear stops her. Fear of losing Tessa forever. Fear of becoming the villain in her own story. Fear that if Tessa knows, she'll never look at her the same way again. And maybe that fear is justified, because if the truth comes out, Mariah won't just lose her marriage. She'll lose herself. As the plot barrels toward its inevitable explosion, the question isn't just whether Daniel will survive. It's whether Mariah can survive what she's become. Even if Ian fails. Even if Daniel lives. Even if Tessa chooses her in the end. Because once you invite a monster back into your life, once you ask him to do the unforgivable, you don't get to pretend your hands are clean anymore. Mariah Copeland, the woman who fought so hard to escape her past, may finally be forced to confront the most terrifying truth of all. The greatest threat to her happiness was never Daniel, never Ian, never even Tessa's wandering heart. It was the darkness she was willing to embrace in the name of love. The days that follow Mariah's call to Ian Ward unfold with a sickening normalcy that feels almost obscene. Genoa City continues to spin on its axis. Coffee is poured at Crimson Lights, deals are negotiated at Newman Enterprises, laughter echoes through familiar hallways, while beneath it all, an invisible countdown ticks steadily toward catastrophe. Mariah moves through this world like a ghost, present but not truly alive, her mind split between the surface conversations she's forced to have and the screaming panic clawing at her insides. Every sound startles her. Every unknown number makes her heart seize. She has unleashed something she cannot see, cannot control, and cannot outrun. Daniel, blissfully unaware of the danger stalking him, begins to feel hopeful for the first time in months. His bond with Tessa deepens, not because they've crossed a physical line, but because emotional intimacy has a gravity all its own. He confides in her about his fears of repeating past mistakes, about the weight of legacy, about feeling like he's always one wrong step away from disaster. Tessa listens, torn apart by guilt and comforted by the honesty she no longer feels in her marriage. She tells herself she hasn't done anything wrong. She hasn't cheated. She hasn't lied outright. But in her quiet moments, she knows emotional betrayal can wound just as deeply, and sometimes more permanently. Mariah sees it all. The subtle changes. The ease. The way Tessa lights up when Daniel enters a room. Each observation tightens the noose of justification around her conscience. This is why I had no choice, she tells herself. This is why it had to end. Yet even as she clings to that rationalization, cracks begin to appear. She catches herself staring at old photos, moments of laughter, resilience, survival. She remembers the vow she once made to never let Ian Ward define her again. The bitter irony is inescapable. In trying to protect her love, she has surrendered her soul to the very man who once tried to destroy it. Ian, meanwhile, is savoring every second. To him, this isn't just another manipulation, it's a reunion. A reclaiming. He inserts himself into Mariah's life with calculated precision, not always directly, but through carefully timed messages, cryptic reassurances, and veiled warnings. He speaks in riddles about destiny and consequences, about how the universe rewards those who are brave enough to take what they deserve. Each interaction leaves Mariah feeling smaller, weaker, more trapped. She begins to understand the true horror of her mistake. Ian doesn't just plan to remove Daniel. He plans to own her again. The first real sign that things are spiraling out of control comes when Daniel notices he's being followed. At first, it's subtle, a familiar car appearing too often, a shadow lingering just a moment too long. He chalks it up to paranoia, to stress, to the scars of a life lived under constant scrutiny. But the feeling doesn't fade. It intensifies. When Daniel confides in Phyllis, she immediately goes into protective mode, her instincts screaming that something is wrong. Phyllis has survived too much to ignore her gut. She starts asking questions, retracing Daniel's recent interactions, circling names like a bloodhound. And, inevitably, she lands on one: Mariah. Phyllis doesn't accuse outright. She observes. She probes. She notices the tension between Mariah and Tessa, the way Mariah avoids Daniel's gaze, the barely concealed hostility beneath forced politeness. Phyllis has made a career out of recognizing obsession when she sees it, and this feels uncomfortably familiar. Her suspicions ignite a chain reaction, pulling others into the orbit of danger. Suddenly, the secret Mariah has been suffocating under feels like it's pressing against her ribs, desperate to explode. As pressure mounts, Ian accelerates his plan. The setup is meticulous. A staged encounter. A calculated risk. A moment designed to look like tragic chance rather than premeditated violence. Ian thrives in these gray areas, where culpability blurs and truth becomes malleable. He wants Mariah complicit, but not informed, haunted by uncertainty, paralyzed by fear. When he finally tells her that things are moving forward, her blood runs cold. She begs him to stop. She reminds him she never explicitly asked for this. Ian's response is chilling in its calm certainty. You asked me to protect what matters to you. This is what protection looks like. Mariah realizes then that she has lost all leverage. Consumed by terror, she considers confessing to Sharon, to Tessa, to anyone who might stop this before it's too late. But every path forward seems to lead to ruin. Confession could save Daniel but destroy her marriage and land her in prison. Silence could preserve her life as she knows it, if she can live with the cost. The moral math becomes unbearable. She is no longer choosing between right and wrong, but between devastation and damnation. The night everything implodes arrives without warning. Daniel stays late at the studio, lost in music, unaware that he is being guided toward a trap. Ian watches from a distance, orchestrating events with terrifying patience. Just as Daniel prepares to leave, a confrontation erupts, violent, chaotic, and unmistakably real. A struggle. A fall. A scream that echoes too long in the empty space. When sirens pierce the night, Genoa City is jolted awake by the news. Daniel Romalotti has been found unconscious, critically injured, his survival uncertain. The fallout is immediate and savage. Tessa is shattered, consumed by guilt so profound it nearly suffocates her. She replays every conversation, every moment she didn't set boundaries, every second she took Mariah for granted. If Daniel dies, she knows she will never forgive herself. Mariah, on the other hand, is trapped in a living nightmare. Relief and horror war inside her as she learns Daniel is alive, for now. She tells herself she didn't want this, that she only wanted him gone, that she never meant for anyone to get hurt. But intent is meaningless in the face of consequences. Blood has been spilled because of her. There is no undoing that. As the investigation begins, cracks form rapidly. Evidence doesn't line up neatly. Witnesses remember fragments. Security footage mysteriously malfunctions. Ian's fingerprints are nowhere to be found. But suspicion has a way of finding its target. Phyllis digs relentlessly, driven by maternal fury and unshakable instinct. Sharon senses the truth in her bones, watching her daughter unravel under the weight of secrets too heavy to carry. And Tessa, grieving, angry, betrayed, begins to see Mariah in a terrifying new light. The distance between them transforms into something colder, sharper, more dangerous than simple estrangement. When Tessa finally confronts Mariah, it's not with tears, but with clarity. She asks one question, simple and devastating. Did you do this? Mariah doesn't answer. She can't. And that silence is louder than any confession. In that moment, Tessa understands that the woman she loves is no longer the woman she married. Whatever happens next, whatever the law decides, whatever fate has in store, their relationship has crossed a point of no return. Love cannot survive in the shadow of attempted murder. Ian, satisfied but not finished, fades back into the darkness, leaving Mariah to face the wreckage alone. He has accomplished exactly what he set out to do. He has destroyed lives, rewritten identities, and proven once again that he remains the most dangerous man in Genoa City, not because of brute force, but because of the evil he awakens in others. As Daniel fights for his life, Genoa City braces for the truth to come out. Because secrets never stay buried forever, not here. And when Mariah Copeland's role in this nightmare is finally exposed, the question won't be whether she deserves forgiveness. It will be whether she deserves redemption at all.